Hello, all my bottoms up babes. This is your soul master, Carrie, taking the messiness in life, mixing it up, finding the message, and serving it to you straight. Because healing isn't linear, it's layered, and sometimes the breakdown is just the beginning of your breakthrough. Here, we honor the ache, speak the life into silence, and give the broken pieces a place to belong. This is the space where truth meets tenderness, where your story is sacred and your scars are seen. So breathe deep, open up, listen up, and let the healing begin. Hello, my bottoms up babes. This is your host, Carrie Hamilton, here to take the messiness in life, shake it up, find the message, and serve it to you straight. Today's episode is one that truly speaks from the power of resilience, faith, and transformation. My guest, Brandt Johnson, is from Minnesota. He's a 15-year veteran of the church leadership and pastoral ministry. He is the author of the book called Broken Before God, When Faith and Calamity Collide. But in 2023, Brandt was in a near-fatal motorcycle accident, which left him struggling with deep questions regarding his faith and healing. What could have ended his life actually brought him closer to faith and gave him a whole new outlook on life. His journey is raw, powerful, and a reminder that life can change in just a split second. I'm honored to introduce to you, all the way from Minnesota, Mr. Brandt Johnson. Brandt, thank you so much for being here today and welcome.
I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you take us back to the day of your accident and what happened and what do you remember most about that moment?
Oh yeah. It was a beautiful day. I don't know if you've ever rode a motorcycle, but riding motorcycle is just nothing like it. And there will always be a place in my heart for, I would say, the wind blowing through my hair, but as you can see, I don't have
You
any.
lost that already, right?
It was just a gorgeous day, and I'm like, um, I had to run an errand into town, and um, and so I went out, I got on the bike, and just like any other time I've did it, I just got on the bike and started riding. You never prepare for something like this when you set out on the journey and say, this is going to change my life. This is going to totally take my life in a different direction. In this particular day, it did. And do you want me to go into like the details of
Sure.
what happened? Yeah. So it's kind of we live in a rural area. I don't like cities. No offense to Chicago. Chicago's um, been there several times. But we live outside of town, several miles outside of town, and so it's a rural two-way road, traffic, going two ways. And on this particular road, all the mailboxes are on one side, so they're all on the side of the road with oncoming traffic. And a vehicle was coming toward me, and they had pulled over across the lane of traffic, so they were facing me, but they were on my side of the road. He was checking his mail, which happens all the time on that road. And I knew that's what was happening because I could see it. And so I just shifted over toward the center of the lane to make room for him. And I noticed that there was a law enforcement officer just a little bit down the road, maybe quarter mile or so. And so automatically you look at your speedometer, right? So we all do. Nothing to be ashamed of. I was going the speed limit. I'm like, oh, that's fine. That's great. I'm just driving the speed limit. And I look up and hear this guy started pulling away from his mailbox into his driveway. And so he pulled literally right in front of me. I had time to lock up my brakes, and that's it. And I impacted the vehicle broadside right behind the driver's side door. Um, and yeah, I was going 55.
Wow.
So with the locking up of the brakes, I did slow down some. I haven't done the math to find out exactly how fast I was going when I impacted the vehicle, but um, yeah, it was enough force to cause what's referred to as an open book pelvic fracture. And what that is, the pelvic ring comes together in the front of your pelvis, in the pelvic symphysis, which is a joint, actually becomes a fused joint eventually, um, And so there's not a lot of movement, just a little bit of movement, but that pelvic symphysis was spread open 4 inches.
Wow.
So it pulled it apart like this. And um, there's so much pressure, it actually gave me a fracture on the inside of um, the the second bone up. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. But it was the second bone up from the coccyx, where the pelvis actually connects to the vertebrae, and it cracked it on the inside because there was so much pressure.
Wow.
And so there I am laying on the pavement, it's 81 degrees out, and laying there. Um, I was in a lot of pain. I
Yeah.
calmed down after finally realizing, okay, look, I'm all in one piece. I looked at my arms, my legs. There's no blood. There's no limbs missing or anything like that. I moved my ankles around. I'm like, okay, I'm okay. I hurt. I thought in my head, I need to walk this off. I need to get up
Wow.
and walk this off. Luckily, I had um, enough mind to stay put and not move. And the cop who was pulling over up the road actually was the first one on site, and he made sure. He said, "No, don't move. Don't try to roll over. Stay laying flat." Um, and so yeah, they made the determination um, to send an ambulance to pick me up. They wanted to send a helicopter to pick me up on the side of the road, but the local hospital's helicopter was busy with something else. And so they picked me up with an ambulance, drove me to the emergency room, started a blood transfusion because that open book pelvic fracture causes massive internal bleeding.
Oh, wow.
Any bleeding on the outside, but I was bleeding inside a lot, like a
Wow.
lot. And so I had 2 units of blood. They had a third unit of blood prepared um, to administer once the second unit was done, but it ended up not needing the third unit. They life flighted me from my hometown, Bemidji, Minnesota, to Fargo, North Dakota, which is the closest trauma one. It's a 2.5 hour drive. The helicopter ride took 30 minutes, 33 minutes, I think.
Wow.
So I always wanted to ride in a helicopter forever. My whole life, I've thought I really want to ride a helicopter. So I got my wish, just remember a
You're
lot of it.
you're like, not like this though. Oh man. So after the accident, what was the hardest part of recovery for you? Like physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it?
Well, um, once they put it all back together, I got a plate in the front holding that pelvic symphysis back together, and they put screws through it, and then I got to screw all the way through from one hip to the other. It's still in there. It's probably the most expensive screw I ever bought.
So
But
they don't sell it at Home Depot or whatever.
oh, oh, it'd have been cheaper though. Um, so once they got everything put together, the surgeon said you cannot put any weight on your hips for 3 months. So I was in a wheelchair for 3 months, um, 100% non-weight bearing. I could not stand up. So I was either sitting down or lying on my back for 3 months. Um, that was difficult in itself, just not being able to do anything, and being in a wheelchair. It's it it's I'm sorry I chuckle. Um, I'm kind of a unique guy. I always wondered what it would be like to be in a wheelchair. So anytime I had a wheelchair around me, I would practice. And so I got good at it. So like being in the wheelchair itself wasn't difficult. But knowing that I was stuck in it, I couldn't get up if I wanted to. I couldn't do anything for myself. This is very humbling. And having to relearn everything. I mean, not to be crass, but from going to the bathroom taking a shower, taking care of your body physically, um, and and all that, just having to relearn it and have someone else contribute to those things is difficult at best. So there was a lot of struggle. Um, the physical therapy side of it was difficult. It was hard to keep up with the routines, the regimens that they wanted me to do, the exercises. Um, but they did tell me if you don't, you might not walk again. So that was definitely motivation. And I did not want to be stuck in a wheelchair. So I followed through with all of the regimen, the physical therapy and everything that they required, no matter how difficult it was. So, but I'd say probably the most difficult was the spiritual aspect. Um, and it was definitely a journey. Um, I had been raised in the church all my life. My dad was a pastor. I was a pastor, served in church leadership. Um, After I left vocational ministry, I was an elder to church for a while. So I thought, yeah, I know all this stuff. It's all good, you know. And so then when when I started asking these questions, okay, well, why, and all the questions that come with this kind of trauma, this kind of physical limitations, the spiritual side of it always follows. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, why did this happen? Where's this going? All that stuff just drove me into this deep dive into like trying to understand more about God and what it is that he has, the purpose he has for us on this earth too.
I could totally see, with my profession being in the life coach industry, men in general, they feel their worth and their value is by what they can provide and what they can, perform. And so I can see first and foremost the mental aspect, because of course if you're in this wheelchair and you are basically immobile, right there enough is a mentality for you to feel worthless, even though clearly there was a reason for it. You didn't just wake up and say, hey, I want to be in a wheelchair and not help anyone anymore. But that I can see. And then, like you said, here you are giving to the church and giving just to your faith in general and being that person for everyone else. Then it also plays a mental toll on the, well, why me? Why was it me? I'm the one giving out, this all the time. And, here I'm giving to the church. Why am I the one taking repercussions with people that aren't in the church or whatever, So I can see that aspect as far as those two perspectives, just for my own profession and then seeing your profession from the inside out. Um, so I know faith like played a huge role in your healing, but was there ever moments that you just felt like giving up? Like, did you feel you were turning your back on what you've grown up to be accustomed to and know, and what your dad probably installed in you as a child and throughout your faith?
Yeah, yeah. I would say to say that I've never doubted my faith would be a lie. Absolutely. Um, and and I would love to say that I'm ashamed to say it, but really I'm not. Because I think there's a lot of value in doubt. Um, and what happened in this particular situation is I'm lying there on my back, can't do anything for myself, and I'm just crying out to God, why? Why? We always want to know why. And I kept getting people, again, we talked about this before the interview. People in church mean well when they say certain things. I know they do, but some of the things they say, it's just so inappropriate. And it's like when I'm laying there flat on my back and um, they come up to me, well, this happened for a reason. Okay, what reason?
Oh man, that's like people. I feel like everybody says that.
It's like
Yes.
say things that are meant to be comforting, then try to comfort me through them, or at least, this was a good one. Well, then God must still have a plan for you. Okay, well, what's the plan?
Hmm.
I'm night after night after night. I'm like, God, why? Why did you save my life? And I go into this a little bit in the book that I found out later that I should not have survived. People, most of the people who have an open book pelvic fracture don't survive because of the
Wow.
inter. Yeah, I looked it up. It was quite a while um, after the accident. One of the nurses, actually, she was a hospice nurse who was coming to our house just to make sure everything was going okay. And she's like, "Yeah, it's not very common that we have someone with an open book pelvic fracture um, make it through, this far in therapy." And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of weird. What do you mean by that?" So I Googled it. I looked it up, and I'm like, "Whoa! Most of the people who get an open book pelvic fracture don't make it. They don't survive."
Wow.
Uh, and so then it hit me hard. Like, okay, God didn't just protect me; He literally spared my life.
Hmm.
And I talked to the law enforcement officer who responded to the accident afterward, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been to a lot of motorcycle accidents, and that's not how they're supposed to look." And he's like, "For one, you hit the truck, and then you ended up behind the scene of the accident, like 20 feet. Somehow I had gone backward instead of forward." And
Wow.
I tell people, I said, I have no doubt that God just picked me up off of the bike and set me to the side. And he said, not today. And
Wow.
maybe it's like, yeah, we're just not ready for him yet.
He's he took your hair instead, right? No.
Yeah. Um,
So, like, what shifted for you to lean more into your relationship with God and your faith from that? I mean, obviously, realizing that wow, I shouldn't be here. I'm sure was first and foremost alarming. But what else? What had shifted to make you lean more into that?
well, I thought of a conversation I had with one of my peers when I was a church elder. I was having a conversation with another church elder, and the age-old question, why do bad things happen to good people? And that got brought up, and he was talking about a situation where someone had asked him that question, and it just kind of came to me. He's like, I don't know why, but I'm okay with that. I don't have to know why. I just have to know that God's in control. I just have to know that I believe in a sovereign God. And what that means to me, at least, is that he knows why. And so if I'm in his hands and I believe that he's the God he says he is, then I should be okay with that. I should feel safe in that. And so that caused me to start thinking a little bit differently about my situation. I'm like, okay, so if God protected me, spared my life, then it must be for some greater calling or some, a specific job or something like that. And so I'm constantly reaching out to God. I'm like, okay, if that's the case, what is that? What do you want me to do? What am I supposed to be doing with this um, life now that I had always thought was committed to you? And the the crazy part about it was I didn't get anything. No, no response. You ever pray and just feels like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling?
Yeah, you're like, I might as well just talk to the wall today. No, no.
What good is this even doing? And, and
Mhm.
and that helped me realize a couple of different things about myself. Um, One is that I had a poor expectation of what prayer was, and it made me rethink the way I was communicating to God because we read in scripture, we need to come boldly before the throne of God, right? And make our requests known to him. That we have this access, that we can tell God what we want and desire, and those are all great things, and that's awesome and that's amazing. But when I think about prayer, um, one of the things that pops into my head is the movie Fiddler on the Roof. Um, and the main character, Reb Tevye, he just is constantly talking to God. He just has this dialogue, and I mean, he looks up and he's just talking to God, and I'm like, well, that's what prayer is. It's just communication, and I know that sometimes, um, when someone is just asking me the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, I just stop responding. I was like, come on, if you don't have it figured out by now, then what good is it going to do for me to tell you again? And so then I'm like, okay, so and I'm not one to, I've never audibly heard God's voice. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that nobody else can hear God's voice. I just haven't. And in this moment, and I'm like I said, I'm in the throes of doubt. I'm crying out to God, not hearing anything back, just silence. And then a thought occurs to me. Maybe it was God planting that thought in my head. Maybe it was the voice of God, and I just am resistant to try to admit that that's what happened. But the thought was, remain faithful to me. And I'm like, huh, okay. So I started diving into the Bible. I'm like, okay, what is it that God wants out of us as humans? He wants us to love him with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And he wants us to love others as much or more than we love ourselves.
Mhm.
That's what he wants of us. You know, he never called us to be successful. He never called us to start some big, massive ministry to the homeless people that's going to save thousands of lives and raise millions of dollars to support communities all across the world. He never called us to be successful at anything. He called us to be faithful.
Mhm.
And he wants us to be faithful regardless of what happens, regardless of what we go through emotionally,
Yes.
spiritually, physically, any of those things that impact our lives, whether they're intentional or accidental. In my case, it was an accident. No one planned on that day. No one, he didn't, that other driver, he was a 96-year-old guy. He
Oh,
didn't intend on pulling out
oh
on
man.
me. He just didn't see me,
Mhm.
And so like, and again, I'm not, I don't believe that we're just these chess pieces on a cosmic chessboard that God is moving around and I don't believe in that kind of control, but I think, it's not to go off on a rabbit trail here, but it's easy for us to think that when we talk about God being in control, that he is dictating every movement. And we all, it's a classic cliche for people to say, well, everything happens for a reason. But does it?
Right.
Everything happen for a reason? That's kind of pushing it to me. In my mind, that's a manipulative God. That's a God who has to have this power and control over everything. And you're going to go here and you're going to do this and you're going to marry this person and you're going to blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's the kind of God we serve. I think
Mhm.
we serve a God who says, I want you to love me and care for the people that I've created. That's what I want from you. How you go about doing that is largely up to you. And I think that's why he gives us free will. That's why he gave me the choice to go out and get on that motorcycle without a helmet on that day.
Well, see, I always say that people don't realize that your relationship with God or whomever, Abba, whatever your God is, your spiritual side of you is, It is a relationship. So put yourself on the opposite side. Do you want someone you're in a relationship for only to come to you when they want something, when they need something, when they have, God, please save me from this? No, you don't want that. You want someone to love you, whether it's good, bad, ugly, sad, happy, glad, whatever the case may be. So that's first and foremost, is that you want God to turn around your situation. But how many times did you go to God when you had a good day? How
None.
many times? So now, is it fair for you to turn around and expect God to change your world like this when now your world has flipped upside down? How many times before that did you seek out to him just for thanks, for blessings, for the good days, not just the bad days? And that's first and foremost. So now, let's say your answer to that is never. I really only asked him when I needed things. Okay, let's just say that's the case. Well, now you're not just building a relationship, you're building trust now too. So exactly what you said had come into your mind, be faithful to me at all times. That means the good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, the happy, glad, and so forth. So now you're not just waiting for God to bring this miracle or this answer to your situation in the darkness that you're in right now. He wants to build trust with you too. Like, okay, now you really need me. So if I turn around and just give you what you want, are you going to hit the road again and not see me until something else bad happens again? Or are you going to be faithful to me and see me on every bright day and bad day?
Mm.
That is the relationship. And it's no different than if the God is standing in front of you or if they're behind the door or behind a curtain or whatever the case may be. Just as you being with a spouse, you're going to be faithful to your spouse, whether they're standing in front of you or if they're out of the country on a business trip or whatever. And that's the same relationship that is with faith. It's the same exact, whether you see them or not, or they're, on the other end of a phone or standing in voicing themselves in front of you. And
Yeah.
that's what I don't think people understand. I don't think they understand having faith doesn't just come when you're having faults, you know.
Right. Yeah, and in scripture, the Bible tells me, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight.
Mhm.
All your ways, not just the
Mhm.
good ways. All your ways,
Yes.
not just when things are going well. What about when things are going poorly? Do we
Mhm.
acknowledge God? Do we acknowledge his presence and his power in our lives? We can look back at David, King David. Um, he was a very immoral person. He did some crazy stuff. He was an adulterer, he was a murderer, he was manipulative, he was not a good dude.
Mhm.
Then Hebrews says that he was called a man after God's own heart. Why was that? Well, because you can read through the Psalms and see that in all of his ways he acknowledged God. He knew
Mhm.
his place before God. And he said things like, "My sin is ever before me." He's like, I look at creation and I think, God, how can you even think about me as a human being when all this other stuff is so much bigger and greater than me? He said things like, even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't fear evil because I know you're with me. Your rod and your staff bring me comfort. But he also said, you, God, sent me down into the deepest darkness. You turned all my friends against me. You have caused me so much trouble and strife and suffering. Those aren't exact quotes, but that
Right.
his attitude was he wasn't just acknowledging God in the good times and when he was receiving comfort and he was receiving support. He got mad at God too. He was
Mhm.
upset at God. He was frustrated with God and he acknowledged God in those times. And he
Mhm.
was able to talk about it. That's I think what happens. And we can even see this in interpersonal communication when we have conflict with people. Is you're gonna face conflict in life. You
Mhm.
are gonna face whenever there's two people, they're eventually gonna disagree on something. It's not a matter of avoiding conflict. It's a matter of how you react to that conflict that's going to show your character. It's going to show what you are as a person. because how you respond to that conflict is either going to add to the conflict or it's going to take away from the conflict. And that's so crucial to recognize. And so often when we're in communication with God, we're on that conflict side of it. And we're like, "Brr." I think first of all, we have to admit that. We have to admit
Mhm.
sometimes I get mad at God. Sometimes I yell at God. Sometimes I swear at God. Can I even say that? Right? It's like if we recognize that and acknowledge that, then it's going to help us process that properly and in a healthy way that allows us to go through that conflict and come out the other side. Otherwise, we're just going to stay stuck in this conflict. And like you mentioned before, in I'm going to pick on church for a minute here. Um, I, I've been a part of church my whole life, but man, we've developed an awkward culture in church these days, and it's like I can be upset and frustrated. Maybe even I just had a fight with my kids or my wife, and I walk through the doors of the church, and what do? I smile really big.
You put on the mask.
Good to be here today, and I shake everybody's hand, and they say, "How you doing?" And I say, "I'm doing great." And I'm just lying through my teeth.
Hmm.
Expect that from people. I expect it from myself and I expect it from you. Because if you start saying, man, actually, I'm not doing that great today. Um, I just had a fight with my kids on the way here and I'm upset about my finances and, whatever the case might be, whenever you share that with me, then I have to do something about it. And I don't really want to do anything about it. So I want you to keep your stuff to you and I'll keep my stuff to me and we'll all be good. And that culture, that church culture doesn't help us work through that trauma. It doesn't help us work through those conflicts. It just adds to it. And we're left in this perpetual state of conflict with ourselves, with other Christians, even with God. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy to stay in that trauma. And what we need to do is be able to come in and support people in that situation, love them, encourage them, show them that there is something more than just staying stuck in that trauma and be able to move forward. And in my situation, that was the doctors, that was the nurses, that was the staff who literally had to show me how to take care of my normal bodily functions.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if I didn't have someone to do that for me and show me that, then I would have been stuck in a horrible, miserable situation.
Well, too, circling back on something you had said about how people say, why do bad things happen to good people? Here's my aspect of it. Anyone that I have talked to, especially with doing my podcast and speaking to a lot of individuals who've had their spiritual awakenings or traumatic situations or transformations, whatever words you want to state, um, one thing that every single person, I have not once had someone not say that they were so thankful for the tragic situation that had happened to them. And I say that meaning that now, with them being on the other side of it, they see now the back end of it of, wow, if I didn't go through that, my relationship with my spouse wouldn't be where it is today, or I would know my worth and value now, or I would insert whatever XYZ. And so a lot of times it's so easy to get caught up on the darkness that you're experiencing and feeling that this is God that doesn't have me, and nobody's there for me, and playing that victim role, when realistically this is straightening out your path of where you're supposed to be and what is actually going to be the fruition of your authentic, like the authenticity of yourself as your soul, of what you're guided to do. And we are all here on a mission. We are all here for some sort of reason, whatever it may be. We all have been given some sort of gift, whether it's to use our voice, our hands, our money, our mental brains, whatever. We are all here, and when you start to veer away from that path, those type of things are what set you straight to a path. I'll be the first to say, Sure, I went to Bible study school and I went here and I went to church when I was younger, and I was actually baptized Presbyterian, and then I became a Catholic to get married to my ex-husband, and then I became a Christian. Like, I have been through the different faiths even in life. And now I wouldn't even really say that I am religious. I'm more spiritual because of my transformation and because of my spiritual awakening. I believe in Christ and a higher conscious, and I can say that wholeheartedly because things happen to me that are so unexplainable. Like, I to even state them, some of them I recorded and even sent to my family because I was like, am I losing my marbles? Like, this is like something that doesn't happen even in the movies, you know? I mean, it was so surreal and so just like anyone that wouldn't have been in my situation would be like, all right, lady, you're losing it, you know? And that is why I know, because I was shown with my eyes, and it felt in my soul that there is a higher God, there is a higher spirit, and whatever you want to call them. You know, people get so stuck on, oh, I believe in God, I believe in Abba, I believe in insert whatever. And I tell them, listen, my mom is called my mom, but to her sister, she's called her sister. And to my grandmother, she's called her daughter. But it's still referring to one solid person. They're just three different names for whomever, you know, whoever is addressing her. So I don't care what you say or call your God, your spirit, your universe, your whatever. We're talking about the same individual, and that same higher Christ consciousness self inside of you is whom you're addressing. And in your tragic situation, you will see them come. And I don't, you have to go through. That is how it works. You have to go through the darkness to get to the lightness. And I don't know about you, but it was never anyone that I knew or thought that I had known that came to help me and to save me and to get me through. It was myself, and it was the helpers, it was the seekers, it was the people that have been through the journey, like yourself and myself, that have been through that darkness. Those are the people that pulled me through, because that's when it clicks. That's when you saw the craziness, the insane things, the things that you just can't explain and people would think you're insane. We've seen that stuff. So now when you're sitting there saying, oh no, this light or this sign or this bird or this verse or whatever it is came to me and whatever, we know because we've seen it. And that's where, if you're in the darkness right now, and let's say you're listening right now, you got to seek the helpers, because those are the people that are going to get you through. It's not going to be the people that you think. It's not going to, you know, and you really have to seek your inner self, because that's the true strength. It's not going to be someone's hand or someone's, you know, money or someone's car that's going to drive you through it. You know, it's yourself, and you have to find Christ, God, source, Abba, whatever your belief is. You have to find that in yourself, because that is how you get through, and the only way is through.
Yeah, and it's a journey. It's a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Searching. We're looking for something. All of us. And again, before we started the recording, you and I were just talking, and you mentioned how so many people are just looking for authenticity. They're looking for something to be real.
Mm-hmm.
That realness is what we're looking for. We're looking to discover this, and unfortunately, I mean, as I said before, you know, I'm a Christian. I believe in the God of the Bible, and and I actually even say in my book, this is my perspective now. I might read my book a year from now and it's changed. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't say the things I said in my book to say, well, you have to believe this particular doctrinal teaching or subscribe to my particular view of God or anything like that. That's not the point of what I was getting at. The point I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to get at with my book was just helping people realize that there is something that is is so important for us to realize that when we start looking outside of what am I going to get out of this? In fact, earlier on in the book, I talk about being the main character, And it's funny because I often have that egotistical side of things that wants to be the main character. I want to be the most important person in the room. I want the focus to be on me, and we all have that tendency, and we all like that spotlight.
Mhm.
But if we're all the main character, nobody's the main character. If we're all the main plot, then nobody's the main plot. And
Mhm.
recognizing that this isn't about me and what I can get out of every moment of every day. And that's a very important thing, not to take away from it, because we do need value in ourselves. We do need value in our own life and in our own times and being able to participate in things that we enjoy. Absolutely. But there's so much joy and there's so much benefit of seeing, okay, well, how can I be that for
Mhm.
someone else? How can I help? How can I be that person to help someone else through their struggle, through their trauma? Do they believe differently than me? Maybe, but
Right.
that's okay. My goal isn't even as a Christian, even as a Christ follower, even as a someone who says I believe the Bible, I believe in Christianity, I believe that this is the truth. Does that mean I can't help someone who doesn't believe exactly the? Well, that's
Right.
stupid. That's
Hmm.
that doesn't even make sense, and it goes against what Scripture actually teaches.
Right.
And you look at other religions too, in how they process things like that. The golden rule is in some variation across most known religions. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's
Hmm.
he stated differently all through the ages and all different kinds of religious organizations and religious backgrounds, because it's so important and it's
Hmm.
fundamental. It's fundamental. I want you to treat me a certain way, so I should be treating you that way too.
Hmm.
Jesus puts it a little different in his Sermon on the Mount. Jesus talks about how how we treat other people, and he says that oh no, I apologize. I'm getting two verses mixed up. Um, I do that sometimes. My brain just takes this bunny trail, and I'm like, oh, this verse is in here, and it's actually, I don't think it was Jesus that said. I think it was Paul, um, Apostle Paul. In he's talking about how we treat other people and how important it is that we treat them in a way that we want to be treated ourselves. Um, and you'll have to forgive me. I forgot where I was going with that because I got
That's okay.
been sidetracked. But I think even as a Christian, as a Christ follower, I can't I can't say that, well, that takes me outside of this spiritual journey because, well, I've already arrived. I've gotten there.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I don't have to pursue anything anymore. That's foolishness.
Right. Hmm.
If I can say that I've attained, this level of understanding that has gone beyond everybody else's level of understanding, well, let's turn me into a god. And that's not my goal.
Right. No, no one is God, or a God. Right. Right.
If I'm not here to support you or to support, as Jesus referred to as your neighbor, who's my neighbor? Well, anybody who's not
Hmm.
me can be my
Yes.
neighbor and be there for them and support them and encourage them and build them up and add value to their life. I think that's so important these days, especially in the United States. All the things we're going through now, are we
Hmm.
adding value to our culture or are we taking away value?
Right. Right. And that is the main. People want to feel heard. People want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated. They want to do and be rewarded. And that's just it. This is not a place for us to be rewarded for everything we do. You should do because that is your gift, that is your journey, that is your mission. You're not here to be praised. like you had said, you're not a god. You're here to live on a mission of whatever it is that you feel in your heart and soul. And when you know it's right, there's like a phrase that says, if it's not right for you, it will break you in pieces. But if it is right for you, it will bring you peace. And it's so true. When when you have a hard yes for whatever journey you're on, it comes in peace. It almost wraps around your soul and it just feels like, this is right. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And everything just like falls into place too. It's like you don't even really give much work for it. If you feel that you're pushing something or forcing something, it's not for you. And as much as you want it to be, it's not for you. If it's causing you confusion and headache and chaos and craziness, it's not for you. And that's what I think so many people love is an internal thing. It is a compassion. That's why a lot of individuals, let's just, totally going off the sidetrack here, with like sexual activity, people that are just doing the hookup and living in this convenience world that we're in and living in that aspect for convenience, it will always feel fake. It will always feel absent. It will always feel like something is missing. But when you have love and compassion and connection and you're in it for commitment, that is when you know that it's for you because you feel that in a piece. It's not pieces of you all over. And that's the problem. So many people are looking at external value and external convenience because that's what we're raised on now. Banking's convenience, shopping's convenient, getting a car is convenient, whatever it is. You cannot have a convenient love. Love is one thing. It's commitment, and that's it. And if you don't have that commitment and you treat love as a convenience, you will always be broken. You will always have that disconnect because love will never be a convenience. It will always be a commitment and a
Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
And
So much, so much value in recognizing that and even admitting that because sometimes we think when we think love, we think, all these lovey feelings and romance and dove eyes and chocolates and it's ooh, love is work.
mm-hmm,
Love is trouble. Love is conflict. Love is saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to be committed to this regardless of the situation. Um, in my pastoral ministry, I served for a short time as a youth pastor, and I said to the kids one time, I was like, I love tacos. Now, the interesting thing about that is tacos and I don't always have the best of relations.
it's
You know what I
true.
mean? Sometimes those tacos really don't treat me very well.
Mm-hmm,
I stay committed and dedicated to them because I love them.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of it. Now, obviously, there's some very unhealthy things about that, where I'm committed and dedicated to a poor diet that I probably shouldn't be committed and dedicated to. But the reality of it is that's the thing. In this culture, love is throwaway. Love is
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm gonna be in this relationship until I stop getting fulfilled, until I stop getting what I feel like I deserve. And that's not love. That's
And
some
that's why I bring it up because that's the same commitment with God. You can't have him on a convenience. Hey, God, I'm struggling right now with money. I need money. Pass it over here. Hey, God, I'm in this car accident. Save my life. It's not a commitment, or I'm sorry, it's not a convenience. It's a commitment. It's an everlasting love. But once you feel that emotion of love, I'm telling you, it's like a light switch. It's like everything that isn't for you and is at a convenience level, it's tasteless. It's disgusting. The things I used to do for love prior to my commitment with God, it disgusts me. It's disturbing. It's because that was how I was raised, having child abuse and chaotic and chaos as what was taught to me as love, which was really what love is not. Having that I didn't know love like I do today. And, I will never, ever again have endless relationships and, chaos and craziness because it's tasteless now to me. It doesn't even appeal to me, as it used to in the past because that's what I thought it was. And it's like, once you get, so many people that are in the darkness or they're living in a trauma or feeling so worthless right now, or whatever words you want to say, like, if you're listening right now, you have to keep going because I'm telling you, the love that is on the opposite side, once your brain does that click and once you finally realize, is it's a feeling and it's a knowing that you can't even put into words. I mean, really, you can't. It's unexplainable.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the first love that I really, really can say I truly know. And that's crazy because of course I have children. I love my children. I love them unconditionally. I was married for 10 years and I thought, I could say he loves me as a person, but it's a whole different meaning. And once you feel that in your soul, you realize there is a lot worth living for and that life truly is a gift. And now it's almost like I'm not afraid to die, but I also want to live forever. Like, and I would never be that way before. I'm like, God, take me away, like get me out of this place, and especially in today's world, it's so dark out there and so miserable, and everybody's just so troubled. And it's like, love is the answer. And I say that, and you really don't know until you've been through it. And
Right.
it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy to even go through that darkness, but you need to because that is when you learn the bits and pieces. And then it all clicks, and you're like, oh my God, that's why that jerk was in my life, or that's why I didn't go there, or that's why I went on that trip. Oh my God, like things like the puzzle pieces just start going together. It's crazy. It really is.
Sure.
And
Sure.
now, for someone listening right now, and maybe, someone who is facing their own wreckage, let's just say in the moment, what encouragement would you want to share with them?
I saw a sign one time on a church said, when you find yourself going through hell, keep going.
It's so true. It's so true.
I think there's a lot of value to, we have to move forward.
Mhm.
One of the worst things we can do is sit and stop. Um, Now, well, I'll qualify that because sometimes we do need some rest and some peace and some separation. And, even the Bible talks about taking time alone, and Jesus will go off into a secluded place to communicate with his Father in heaven. And there's value in that. But especially when you're going through a traumatic situation, when you're going through wreckage, like you put it so well, because that's what it is. It's
Mhm.
wreckage. It's not intended to be that way. It's not supposed to. We're not supposed to experience these terrible things.
Mm-mm.
People aren't supposed. Young girls aren't supposed to experience that kind of abuse. Young boys aren't supposed to go through that kind of trauma that just
Mhm.
wrecks them emotionally and physically and all. It's not supposed to happen that way. We live in a fallen world and we're fallen people. And and calling it wreckage, I think is wonderful because that's exactly what it is.
Mhm.
um and when you're going through it, I think it's so important to keep going. It's so important to find the people around you, like you talked about earlier about the seekers. There are people that have gone through what you've gone through. You
Mhm.
know, when I told you about finding my grandmother when she passed away, I found her in her bed, and I had someone say, "Hey, I know what you're going through." I'm like, "No, you don't. You don't know what I'm going through because you still have your grandmother." And it got me upset. It got me angry at that person. It didn't help when they pretended to say that they know what I'm going through. But um, in the Bible, it talks about Jesus going through everything that we've gone through. He said, I've suffered in any way that you have suffered, so that when you suffer, I can give you comfort. That was a paraphrase, but it's basically what he's getting at. He's like, hey, I've been there.
Yes.
There's so much value in that, to have someone who has gone through what you've gone through. It might not be the exact same thing. It might be, there might be nuance here or there, or anything, but trauma is trauma. And the response to trauma is the natural response to trauma is to just allow it to change me. And there's this trend that's going around it. It really bugs me that people talk about their trauma response. Well, that's just a trauma response. Like that just writes off their poor behavior. I'm like,
Mm,
no, that just means you're a broken person that needs fixing, that needs
yes.
healing, that needs to keep moving past that trauma so that you can find healing. And it's the natural tendency is just to accept it. Well, this is the trauma that I have, and because of that trauma, this is how I act, and you just have to accept me because of that. That's not healthy.
No. And see, and then it also gives like an excuse for what someone is going through. And here's the thing, what you go through, the destruction, the chaos, the wreckage, that is destruction to discover who you truly are. And going back to your comment about the individual saying, oh, I know how you feel, and them siding with you, here's my aspect. There's a phrase that says, if you're not spiritually led, then you're emotionally fed. Or I'm sorry, if you're not spiritually fed, you're emotionally led. And it's so true. If you don't seek value in blessings, like I tell everybody all the time, seek the blessings in the burdens. Yes, you got in a motorcycle accident, but you're alive. Yes, your tire just blew out on your car, but you have a car. Yes, you lost your job, but there's so much more opportunity because you have so much to offer. Like you have to seek something higher when something lower has happened. And that's where you find a blessing with everything, because the mind works just like the body. If I'm sitting here and I'm eating junk food every single day, my body's going to show that I'm a junk food addict and I eat junk food every day. The mind works the same way. If you feed it positivity every single day, that is all that it will have to disperse is positive thoughts, positive attributes, positive ways of thinking. But if you feed it negativity and you seek everything negative in every scenario and every single thing that you do, that's all it has to disperse. You know, there's a phrase, I was in the banking world for 13 years of my life. And in the lending world, we would always say, you know, we always would have to get a package together. So if I'm going to put in a loan for someone, I needed to get their driver's license, their check stubs, their whatever it is that, you know, we had to collect. And there's a phrase that would say, shit in is shit out. And it's true. If I gave a half gathered package, the underwriter is going to be like, okay, you're missing all these like regular, I'm not wasting my time on this junk, like denied, you know what I mean? They're not going to sit here and look through a valued package because you gave them junk to begin with. Their job isn't to collect the stuff from the clients. That's your job. And so if you give them half-assed, excuse my words, they're going to give you that in return. And it's the same way with your mind. If you keep
Yeah.
seeking negative things and look at poor me, oh, this, oh, that, that's all you're going to ever see.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, being in the abuse and stuff in my trauma, that was actually one, probably the hardest abuse. It wasn't the physical abuse, it was the mental abuse. It was the fact of thinking that I was less than, because that's what they manipulated and broke you down to think. I would always, I mean, someone would say, oh, that's a nice shirt. And I'd be like, well, there's a hole and there's a little dot here. And that, like, I would pick apart, or even just something, oh, well, my shoes are crooked, or, you know, whatever. I would find something negative to say, even though this person's giving me a compliment. And I even still to this day, sometimes people give me a compliment and like my mind takes a couple minutes to be like, oh, thank you. You know, like, that was actually something nice someone was trying to say to me, versus picking something apart to return something negative about myself. And it's because your mind, we are all creatures of habit. And so we get into the habit of accepting life as it is. And we don't realize that there is positivity coming out of it, and it's trying to train you. You know, we want the comfort, and so we keep going back to the destruction because that's the comfort that we know. And we keep going back to the horrible person that treats us so horrible because that is all we know. That is our comfort zone. But that's why the chaos is there, because the chaos is going so much to get you out of that commotion, to get you into where you're supposed to be. And people, they don't, you're praying for the change, but yet when God's trying to push you out by lighting a fire under your butt, you're not moving because you're staying in the comfort and you're not supposed to be there. So that's the reality that you have to seek and understand, that you're praying for the chaos that you're in. You just don't see it because you're paying attention to the chaos. You're not paying attention to the discovery. You see the destruction. And it's crazy that you say that, because that was exactly how I felt when everything hit the fan, as far as the abuse, and then him being arrested for domestic, a battery and violence and all that stuff. When it all hit the fan, I remember saying to one of my friends, I said, God, I feel like I close my eyes and I see my shoe laying over there and my work over here. Like, I felt like my whole life was just all in shambles. Like someone took a bomb and blew up my house, and that is you needed to hit rock bottom, because you can't build an empire on a half-story home. You can't build an empire on burnt down studs and used roofing material. You have to seek the rock bottom to put that firm foundation, which is, God, Christ, whatever. Build that solid foundation, and that's where your empire builds. Because everybody's heard the story of the three little pigs. You make your house out of straw, they're going to blow your house down, and that's just it. You got to build a firm foundation for structure to last. And that goes for every part of your life: financial, emotional, mental, spiritual, you name it, and
Yeah.
and for that reason alone, I am so thankful that all of that abuse and destruction and craziness happened to me. As crazy as it sounds to even say that, I now know my worth, my value, what I will never allow in my life again, what was taken advantage of me, what was, where I was mentally, and what I thought was good for me was horrible. Horrible for me. And someone that isn't in that situation can clearly say, me, like for you, your motorcycle accident, oh my God, that's horrendous. That's crazy. But I really don't know what you went through. And I never, pray to God, never hope I do. But you know what I'm saying? It's like people don't understand that. They see the darkness and they get stuck in there. And it's like, hey, here's the light. Keep following the light and keep coming this way. Because I'm telling you, if you keep turning around and going back and keep honoring the destruction, all you're doing is you're bowing to the devil that you know so well, and you're not surrendering to the God who you're praying to help you. And that's just it.
Yeah.
So
And
I
that's
get that.
I totally agree with everything you've shared, and can even relate to so much of it. But that's not to say that everybody has to, have some horrible thing happen to them in order
Oh.
to find their worth. But sometimes it takes that.
Hmm.
Sometimes it does take, there's those of us in life who have to learn the hard way.
Hmm.
Some of us, some people, and this is what I hope and pray that I can do with this book, and it's why I wrote it, is I told my mom one time, I want to learn from my brother's mistakes so that I don't get in trouble for doing what I saw them do, right? And I think that's what my hope is for this book is I don't want people to have to hit rock bottom.
Right.
I want them to be able to look at my situation and say, "Oh, I'm in an unhealthy circumstance right now, but I can do something about it before I hit rock bottom."
Right.
I, I don't wish that on anybody. I don't wish that anybody goes through what I went through. And
Right.
so that's what I hope and pray that I can do through this message, is just to share with them, "Hey, look, there's hope. You don't have to go all the way down to that rock bottom before you can start building something beautiful." Um, and in scripture, there's this image that we're we're called a clay vessel, a jar of clay that's here to hold this message that God has for people. Well, I've worked with pottery before, and I know it's fragile, and sometimes pottery chips unintentionally. Something, you just kind of bump it, and a little crack shows up. Sometimes you drop it and it shatters completely to pieces. But the
Mhm.
beauty of that is that God, our creator, can take those pieces and put them back together in a way that it might not look as perfect as it once did, but it still can carry that message. And I think that's really important, is that my job is to carry a message of hope. I have hope that I can help other people have hope. I have a peace in my life. The Bible talks about a peace that goes beyond understanding. Well, how can you have peace even though you went through this terrible circumstance? And that's what makes it go beyond understanding. It's a peace that surpasses understanding, because someone who goes through that stuff shouldn't have peace. They shouldn't be okay. They shouldn't, come out the other side with joy in their hearts and with a smile on their face. And I think that's really important for anyone going through a situation, is do something about it now so that you
Mhm.
don't have to hit rock bottom.
Well, and that's going back to what you said too, like, taking the pieces and, as they say, becoming a masterpiece because we are a piece of the master.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy that you have used that analogy, because that's what so many have said, that I've read, and just even my peers and stuff like that. That's like something that I mention a lot, even in my book and so forth, is exactly that, because we are all someone and we are some of the one. So it's like, if once you start seeing that you are part of the creator, part of, you are here for a reason, and you're not here just taking up space, and that's your purpose, is, like you said, no, of course nobody wants destruction and chaos and craziness to allude to them. And not to mention, I mean, nobody wants it to get to where you have to have substance abuse to mask the truth. I mean, that is why so many are out here using their voice and telling you, hey, it doesn't have to be like this, because you are someone, you're just in the wrong place and having the wrong people tell you who you are. And once you start seeing inside that you are an amazing person and so loved, I mean, who isn't blessed to be loved by the biggest creator there is? There's no love that you will ever find that is even equivalent to that. And it's like, once you find that in your soul, like, what a blessing, and it's like, and that's where it's people like us who are being worked through to make, allow people to see that, to realize that, to know that, and of course to try and save them from being, like you said, rock bottom. And it's like, people talk about this awakening and wake up everybody and so forth, and it's like, that's what we want you to wake up to: yourself, your true authentic self. You are not what somebody had said about you, or created about you, or voiced about you. And realistically, once you start realizing too that life truly is a mirror, so the way that I treat you is, there's something that I experienced in my life for that reason that I'm treating you. So, maybe if I don't like your shirt color, it's because, oh, well, that was the color that I was wearing when I experienced my abuse or whatever. I'm just inserting something. But there's a reason that I'm acting that way towards you, and it has nothing to do with you. And once you start realizing that it's actually the way people treat you are mirrored things that they've either experienced that make them not like something or dislike something, or there's, it could be your hair color. Oh, that was my mom who was, evil to me or something, and that's why I don't like you, whatever. Once you realize that, you're like, wow, I have been taking in everyone else's problems and they're not mine to have. It's like, that's half the battle of reality, and knowing, um what we're going through. Now, Brandt, your book, is there a website or somewhere that people can purchase your book, or check out your book? I know you shared a link with me. I will put that on this video as well. Is that, because it's Audible, is that the link then that you would uh, provide to others?
The link I sent to you is actually for a copy that you can use to read.
Oh,
But yeah, it is available on Audible. If you
okay.
the title, Broken Before God, When Faith and Calamity Collide. It'll pull up on Audible. It is available in paperback and hardcover as well on Amazon as well.
Okay.
If you're one of those that likes an e-reader, you can get it on Kindle through Amazon as well. Um, and if you happen to be a bookseller and want to carry the book in your bookstore, you can go to Ingram Spark and order it wholesale through Ingram Spark as well to carry in your bookstore if you want to do it that way. And I do have an author's website on Amazon. It's I think Amazon.com/author/Brandt J. I
Okay.
think it is.
You know what I'll have you do? If you don't mind, Brand, like emailing or messaging me those, and I will place those on our video, because a lot of people don't have, it's either Audible or video or Audible. So therefore, if anyone can't see this, we can, place it on the website and stuff like that too. So they'll have it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, your heart, your, just everything with us today. And your journey is, it reminds us that even though in like the hardest seasons, God is still working, shaping us, drawing us closer to Him, wanting that relationship. And if you're listening out there, remember that our greatest trials can come from someone's testimony and out there helping others and having them find hope. Like, keep leaning into your faith. Don't lose sight of the bigger thing, which is your transformation, and know that there is a bigger plan and that you are so incredibly loved. You just need to realize it and see yourself through the eyes of our Creator and who you are. Do you have anything closing today, Brandt, that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just echoing so much of what you've shared too is so important for us to recognize. Like I mentioned before, King David, how he recognized his place before God. In the good things and in the bad things, in every aspect of his life, he just threw himself at the feet of God, and I think that's what made him a man after God's own heart. It's not because he was perfect. It's not because he always made all the right choices. It's not because he was this super moral person or because of his political views. None of that stuff is what made him important before God. It was that he was broken before God and that he laid all those broken pieces before his maker and said, "You make something beautiful out of this."
Yes, that's amazing. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you to all our listeners today. And this wraps up today's episode of reminding us that even in life's darkest moments, there's still light to be found. A tragic accident could have been the end, but instead it became a beginning. It was a path that led not only to healing, but to a deeper faith and a purpose and the unshakable hope that nothing in life is wasted. If you're walking through your own struggles right now, may you be encouraged to know that pain can turn into purpose and brokenness can lead into beauty. Faith has a power to carry us all in our strength and hope that can arise from the ashes of despair. Thank you for joining me in this powerful conversation with Brandt Johnson today. Remember that you are never alone, your story matters, and even in the wreckage, there's always a way forward. Until next time, keep holding on to faith, keep choosing hope, and keep believing that the best chapters are still ahead.